Begin with North Dakota. Senator Kevin Cramer. It's great to see you, Senator. Thanks for coming back on.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Senator, but the House Democrats still are not back from recess. I think they're coming back on Friday, and they're going to push for more than a new $1 trillion rescue plan. How come they're not back in today?
Well, Liz, I suspect the reason they're not back now is because they haven't gotten their orders from the speaker yet. Whatever big package they're coming up with, there's no there's her. And it appears to me that this is going to be a top-down driven process, and it's going to be loaded with all kinds of goodies. It looks to me like a taxpayer-funded bribe in the making, but I think it's more about optics. I think it's more about messaging. Frankly, they're going to try to put enough stuff in there that there's something in it for everybody, every governor, mayor, every person, in hopes that they can have the vote, because I don't frankly see it as a serious effort at actually growing our economy and stimulating it the way that we need to.
It's a big fight now. The White House and Republicans say also that the Democrats want federal taxpayers to bail out badly managed states and cities. We're hearing the price tag for that could be $680 billion. Listen, small businesses, as you know, they're getting annihilated right now. The Democrats are talking about rolling back also the 2017 GOP tax law, the $10,000 cap on state and local tax deductions, a federal bailout of failing government union pension plans. Why do you say what the Democrats are talking about won't be enough?
Well, first of all, the economy right now, you're never going to stimulate it enough with either tax cuts or tax increases or printing more money and spending it until people can go back to work. The economy is not driven by how much money the government puts into it. The economy is driven by the jobs that you create, that the private sector creates, and the wealth that they create by having willing buyers and willing sellers. We need to get the country back to work. There's plenty of liquidity right now. My goodness, we've already appropriated some $3 trillion of federal dollars, most of it going to states and local communities, as well as to workers and their employers. But let's see how that works out first, and not to mention all these credit facilities that the Federal Reserve has come up with and is coming up with. So I think we need to get the economy going again, or open again, before we see how much more stimulus it needs.
Yeah, 47 states are now moving to open this week. White House advisor Larry Kudlow, he said about President Obama now attacking the Trump administration, saying the COVID response is, quote, chaotic. He said that President Obama said that about the administration. Kudlow saying, this is just darn political. What is President Obama talking about? We stopped counting after 91 federal agencies on the move, including the NIH, HHS, military doctors, nurses, scientists. Is he talking about Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx? Who's Obama talking about in being chaotic? He didn't specifically say it's President Trump. He said the administration.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I suppose what he's trying to do is just cast some doubt about the administration, given the fact that this is an election year where the sitting president is up for re-election. And let's face it, we've never been through anything like this before. And I have to say, I think the president's done a marvelous job, and the administration. The thing that's so unique, really more unique than it ought to be about President Trump, is he understands and appreciates and respects cooperative federalism. And so he provides guidelines, and those guidelines he gets from his task force. His task force is not just one or two people or a couple of folks at the high up in his administration. It's everybody. It's the doctors. It's the CDC. It's the Treasury Department and the Commerce Department, the Agriculture Department, the Energy Department. He puts it all into the blender, and then he comes up with the balance. I think they've operated very well as an administration, and doing something that's never been done before at a very fast pace. And granted,
and you don't hear California Governor Gavin Newsom, also Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York State, say, listen, the administration has been responsive to us. Yeah. So is the Republican governor of Maryland saying the same thing, Senator. They're not saying, that they're not saying what Obama's saying. So, by the way, many Obama officials are still in the administration working at these various agencies. Again, we counted more than 9 dozen. I want to get your take on the fight over reopening. Now we've got this 77-year-old Michigan barber, Carl Menke, talking to Fox and Friends yesterday. He stayed open. He kept his barbershop open in defiance of Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer's extended shutdown order. I want you to take a listen to this.
Just absolutely brought me to my knees. I just couldn't do that. I'm a small business owner. She has no concept at all the damage that she's doing to our state. You know, it's and to families.
So this is what's happening. You heard that, Senator, right? You heard what he said.
Yeah,
What's your take?
Yeah. So my take is that this is what happens when people get full of themselves. So, you know, cooperative federalism works well when you have a president that appreciates the role that 50 different governors play. Now, each of those governors, you know, behaves differently because they have a different situation. There are a few, and that certainly the governor of Michigan is one of them, that has overplayed their hand, seems to be so full of themselves and full of their own power that they actually think that there's a law that and a constitution that allows them to dictate these things to private citizens. I just think it's playing out right in front of us, the difference between a liberal totalitarianism, sort of bottom down or top down philosophy versus a grassroots philosophy that again represents and better understands not just that we're a democracy, not that we're just 50 different states that are autonomous, but also that we're a self-governed nation. The exceptionalism of America is that we're not that we're democracy, but that we're self-governed, and the people themselves are going to make the decision as to whether they go to the barber shop or not, and the barber ought to be able to make the decision himself whether he's going to be open or not. So I think this Senator, like many other, are great examples of America.
I hear what you're saying. He received a cease and desist order Friday, delivered by state police after he reopened on Monday. Again, Governor Whitmer has extended closure of non-essential businesses to May 28th. You know, meanwhile, states are releasing from prison. Now we're tracking thousands of inmates in close to a majority of the states due to COVID-19. Government investigations of foodborne illnesses, food recalls have plummeted to their lowest levels in years. The U.S. And the FDA, the USDA also, they're postponing in-person inspections. This is dangerous about what's happening with the food factories. You know, they used to have 900 inspections by the government a month. Now it's plummeted to just 9 or 8. Your reaction to that?
So it's interesting, Liz, and I was having trouble hearing some of the specifics of what you were saying, but with regard to the food supply chain, the United States of America has always had a very safe, reliable, low-cost food source in this country, and that's because we protect the entire supply chain. However, back to my previous point about you know, this federalism and states' rights, I think it does demonstrate a vulnerability. This COVID-19, it's actually illustrated lots of vulnerabilities in various supply chains, including, you know, pharmaceuticals, food, energy, oil and gas. But I do think this is an area where we should have a long look back after all of this and to talk about the appropriateness of consolidation of things like food supply, like meat supply, for example, and maybe empower states more and use interstate commerce the way it was designed, you know, initially thought of, and that is having state-inspected facilities that are closer to the situations, and then allowing more, you know, interstate commerce with food that's protected at the state levels at a very high standard. You know, I just think a lot of this comes down to philosophy.
Okay. All right, Senator Cramer, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming in.